step into the depths of our second excavation, where we don't simply follow a guide, but unearth hidden layers of creative evolution. This is not a map to follow, but a deliberate descent into the forgotten corridors of our inner worlds. A deliberate excavation of ideas that refuse to be confined by conventional wisdom. We will talk about the cold depth of the human psyche. Here, every shard of thought, every whisper of rebellion, beckons us to dig deeper, challenging us to unearth the raw essence of innovation buried within. Chapter 1: The Alchemist and the Void. How much silence does it take to hear the future, to create what others cannot yet imagine? Begin with Aquarius, the water bearer, whose vessel spills not water but possibility. In the West, Aquarius is the quiet lightning, unseen until it cracks the sky. Its rebellion is not chaos, but a calculated dance at the edge of tradition. Think of Nikola Tesla, who harnessed solitude to hear electricity's whispers, or Emily, whose seclusion birthed poetry that outlived her. Sigma here is not the lone wolf who starves, but the one who chooses the forest to hunt unseen. Solitude becomes its forge, tempering ideas too fragile for the noise of crowds. In the East, the snake moves without sound, its innovation coiled in patience. It sheds skin not to flee, but to renew. The monkey, meanwhile, is the trickster teacher, turning rigid rules into fluid games. But even play has its shadows. The monkey's genius can spiral into mischief for its own sake, building mazes with no exit, laughing as others stumble. Gemini and Cancer orbit this tension. Gemini's twin minds spin threads of curiosity, weaving tapestries of what if. Cancer, the silent guardian, watches from the depths, collecting truths like pearls. This is the first truth. Isolation, in measure, sharpens the blade of self. Too little, and the mind drowns in others' voices. Too much, and the blade turns inward. Enter Zeta, Sigma's shadow. If Sigma is the archer who draws the bow alone, Zeta is the arrow that never lands, a force of cold, endless disruption. Picture Loki, not just a charming trickster, but also a god who burns bridges for the smoke. In a sense, Zetas and Prime are same, charming but tyrants, poles of the hierarchy spectrum, where Prime conquers through fire, Zeta freezes loyalty into compliance. Psychology reveals the creativity paradox Nakamura. Solitude boosts original thought, but erodes the empathy needed to share it. A study of inventors found that those who collaborated after periods of isolation produced more humane breakthroughs. Bias alert. We idolize lone geniuses, but forget, vision without communion breeds obsolescence. Stoicism offers clarity. The mountain peak sees far, but cannot feel the valley's breath. Sigma's strength is in its balance, knowing when to climb and when to descend. Consider Leonardo da Vinci, who retreated to his notebooks, yet returned with visions that fed the Renaissance. Zeta's flaw. It confuses detachment with divinity, freezing itself into a relic. Now turn east. The snake's lesson is timing, striking only when the world is ripe for change. The monkey's gift is adaptation, using the system to dismantle it. Together, they whisper. True innovation is not defiance, but dialogue with the unseen. Ask yourself, does your silence protect your flame or smother it? Solitude is a lens. Adjust it poorly, and you see only your reflection. Adjust it rightly, and you see the constellations hidden in the dark. Chapter 2: The Mask and the Mirror. What does society fear more? The rebel who breaks rules, or the one who rewrites them? Begin with the snake, Eastern astrology's quiet alchemist. It does not attack, it transforms. Picture a surgeon, not a warrior, methodically cutting away rot to save the body. The snake's innovation is rooted in timing, not haste. It sheds skin only when the old no longer fits, teaching us that reinvention is not destruction, but evolution. Yet its silence unnerves. Society distrusts what it cannot predict, mistaking patience for conspiracy. Now, the monkey, it swings through rules like jungle vines, turning obstacles into playgrounds. Its genius is adaptability. Think of a hacker repurposing code to crack systems. But playfulness risks recklessness. A monkey that laughs too loud becomes a jester, trivializing its own power. Here lies the tension. Innovation thrives on freedom, but without a moral compass, it becomes a storm with no direction. Gemini enters, twin-faced, holding a mirror to this duality. One side reflects Aquarius idealism, the other Cancer's caution. Gemini's gift is fluidity, yet fluidity can fracture. Without grounding, Gemini's ideas scatter like sparks, dazzling but fleeting. Enter Sigma, the lone strategist. It is not society's enemy, but its critic. Imagine a filmmaker who rejects Hollywood to craft indie masterpieces, working alone, not out of spite, but to preserve vision. Sigma's isolation is a tool, not a cage. It trades applause for authenticity, knowing crowds often drown truth in noise. Zeta, Sigma's shadow, is the anti-hero. It wears independence like armor, but beneath lies a flawed moral code. Zeta doesn't lack ethics, it rebels against society's rules. Its danger isn't tyranny, but ambiguity. Unlike prime male, the hot, impulsive tyrant, Zeta's cold defiance confuses. Society fears what it cannot label. Psychology reveals the outsider paradox. Williams, 2021. Nonconformists drive progress but face distrust, even when ethical. A study of whistleblowers showed that 68% were seen as traitors and heroes, their morals too radical for binaries. Bias alert. Humans crave clear villains and saints. Zeta's grayness triggers unease. It mirrors our own contradictions. Stoicism whispers, a tree that grows sideways is still reaching for light. Zeta's rebellion, however flawed, stems from a hunger for truth. Consider Edward Snowden, exposing secrets not for chaos, but a skewed moral duty. His isolation wasn't madness, but martyrdom to a code society refused to name. But frostbite still kills. Zeta's extreme solitude erodes empathy, narrowing its code into dogma. The snake evolves, the monkey adapts, but Zeta, it forgets that innovation needs oxygen. Sigmas also rebel, but it rebels against manipulation, not society itself. Ask yourself, does your rebellion nourish or numb? Society fears the unmapped, but the unmapped holds tomorrow's paths. To innovate is to dance on the edge of a blade, cutting but never falling. The snake's wisdom, shed but stay rooted. The monkey's lesson, play but know when to land. Chapter 3. The Bridge and the Blade. Can you build a future without breaking the past? Or does progress demand a knife in the dark? Do you ever feel that your boldest ideas arise when you stand apart from the crowd? Picture the snake sliding through a crack in a fortress wall. It does not demolish, it infiltrates. Its innovation is subtle, reshaping systems from within. The snake's genius lies in knowing when to stay hidden. Yet society often brands this patience as deceit, fearing what it cannot see. Here's the irony. The very stealth that lets the snake heal also makes it a target. Now watch the monkey. It swings into the fortress, tossing guards' helmets into fountains, turning order into absurdity. Its brilliance is disruption as art, but art without intent becomes farce. A monkey that mocks everything builds nothing, leaving the fortress intact but its people disillusioned. This is the trap. Rebellion that entertains but does not empower. Gemini stands at the gate, one hand holding a blueprint like Aquarius, the other a shield like Cancer. It asks, what if we redesign the fortress instead of raising it? But duality paralyzes. Gemini's visions scatter like wind-blown seeds. Some take root, most wither. Without focus, innovation becomes noise. Enter Sigma, the architect who works at dawn, alone. It does not hate the fortress. It imagines better foundations. Think of Banksy, cloaked in anonymity, critiquing power with art that sparks dialogue, not destruction. Sigma's isolation is deliberate, a shield against the compromises of collaboration. Yet in silence, it risks forgetting that even the grandest designs need hands to lift them. Zeta, meanwhile, is the rogue stonemason. It chips at the fortress not to destroy, but to reshape it into something only it understands. Its moral code is personal, rigid, cryptic, but present. Unlike Prime, who burns the fortress to plant a flag, Zeta carves symbols into the walls, cryptic enough to evade blame. Society fears Zeta, not for its cruelty, but its indifference to approval. Psychology reveals the lone innovator's dilemma. Grant, 2023. Those who reject collaboration often create groundbreaking, but socially orphaned ideas. A study of inventors found 42% of patented innovations failed to scale because their creators refused to adapt. Bias alert. We glorify mavericks but ignore that most revolutions are coalitions, not solo acts. Stoicism murmurs. A blade that never shears becomes a burden. Zeta's flaw is not malice, but rigidity. Consider Elon Musk, a Sigma-Zeta hybrid whose visions reshape industries, yet whose isolation-fueled whims alienate allies. Independence without feedback breeds myopia. In this pursuit of radical innovation, we must also reckon with the cost of isolation. The Sigma archetype represents that lone spirit who operates beyond conventional roles, while its extreme form, Zeta, pushes independence to a point where untethered defiance can lead to alienation and an overzealous rejection of shared wisdom. The snake's lesson: move unseen, but never alone. Even spies need networks. The monkey's warning: laughter disarms, but purpose sustains. Ask yourself, does your innovation heal or haunt? Bridges require two sides. Cut a rope, and you drown in the river you sought to cross. The greatest rebels are not those who defy society, but those who teach it to reimagine itself. Chapter 4, or the last one, the hierophants of chaos. The hierarchical systems we construct to organize social dynamics reveal another dimension of the independent spirit. Our zodiac systems map innate tendencies. Hierarchical archetypes describe how we position ourselves relative to societal structures. These frameworks offer complementary perspectives on the same psychological territory. The Sigma archetype embodies a particular relationship with social hierarchies, present but not participating in the conventional sense. Unlike the Alpha, who seeks to dominate existing structures, or the Beta, who finds meaning in supporting them, the Sigma exists in a state of deliberate periphery. They operate within society while maintaining psychological independence from its reward systems. This position creates a unique vantage point, removed from the competitive dynamics that consume others' attention. The Sigma notices patterns invisible to those embedded within the hierarchy. This perspective generates innovation through observation rather than participation. The Sigma sees not just the game being played, but the field it's played upon, and the unstated rules that constrain it. Studies in organizational psychology suggest that groundbreaking innovations often come from those with structural holes in their social networks, connections across different groups, rather than within a single tight community. The Sigma naturally creates such bridges, moving between social contexts without becoming fully embedded in any of them. This mobility allows them to transfer ideas across boundaries that others rarely cross. The Zeta represents an amplification of this independence to degrees that can become dysfunctional, where the Sigma maintains sufficient social connection to translate their insights back to the collective. The Zeta risks severing these essential communication channels. Their extreme independence can produce radical innovations, but often lacks the temperance needed for practical implementation. This pattern demonstrates what Jung might call enantiodromia, the tendency for any psychological position taken to an extreme to transform into its opposite. The Zeta seeks absolute freedom through detachment, but can become paradoxically constrained by their own isolation, unable to participate in the collaborative efforts that turn individual insights into collective progress. The mythological figures of Loki and the Joker illustrate this tension. Both exist outside conventional moral frameworks, seeing the arbitrary nature of social rules that others accept as natural laws. This perspective grants them freedom to imagine alternatives impossible for those bound by convention. Yet without ethical anchoring, their innovations often manifest as destruction rather than creation, challenging existing structures without offering viable alternatives. The independent thinker must navigate a complex balance, maintaining sufficient distance to see beyond conventional limitations, while remaining connected enough to translate insights into implementable forms. The Stoic principle of living according to nature offers guidance here. True independence isn't rejection of all connection, but alignment with deeper principles rather than superficial social expectations. Eastern and Western zodiac systems converge on this understanding through different symbolic languages. Aquarius and the snake both recognize that transformation requires periods of separation, the shedding of old identities before new ones can emerge. Gemini and the monkey understand that playful experimentation creates spaces where innovation can occur without premature judgment. What emerges from comparing these systems is a unified psychological pattern. The innovative mind requires both separation and connection, existing in productive tension between individual insight and collective implementation. This balance isn't static, but dynamic, sometimes requiring greater independence to generate new ideas, other times closer connection to refine and apply them. The philosophical tradition of existentialism speaks to this challenge. Authentic innovation requires accepting the fundamental aloneness of original thinking while still choosing engagement with the world. The truly independent mind doesn't seek separation for its own sake, but as a necessary phase in bringing new possibilities into being. As you consider your own relationship with social structures, reflect on where you position yourself. Do you maintain creative distance like the Sigma, or have you sometimes pushed independence to Zeta extremes? Let me know in the comments. The path of balanced innovation requires neither complete integration nor total separation, but a mindful oscillation between these traits. This is the end. We hope you've liked this video. I really appreciate for what you guys do for this channel. These likes and comments are lifeblood for this channel. Thanks. This video is second part of the 5-video series on Zodiac and Archetype Showdown. We've already uploaded the Aries part, maybe other ones too, depending on when you're watching this. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being here with me.